So do you think the royal family should welcome him back into the fold? Are we all at that point now? Is the general consensus? Yeah. No.
Has visited Windsor Castle today, where he laid a wreath and flowers at the grave of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. Today is the third.
Turn to London.
The couple attended one of their final royal engagements honoring British vets. CBS 4's Gwen Baumgartner reports.
The moment Harry's plane touched down at Heathrow, airport staff froze. Not because he was scheduled to arrive, he wasn't. Not because anyone expected him, they didn't. The cameras swung around, people stopped mid-step, and you could feel the confusion spreading like wildfire. Because here's the thing, Harry wasn't supposed to be in the UK at all. Not this week, not this month, maybe not ever again based on how he's been avoiding London like the plague. But there he was, hood pulled up, shoulders tight, moving with the kind of urgency you only see when someone's just gotten the worst phone call of their life. And within hours, 4 words leaked from inside the palace that sent the entire world into absolute chaos. Secret strip order drafted. Yeah, you heard that right. And what happened next? Nobody could have seen it coming. What happens next is going to blow your mind.
Just one private jet parked at a quiet little airfield in California and a single passenger walking up the steps with a duffel bag.
Hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss it, and smash that like button. Let's get into it. So those 4 words, secret strip order drafted, they didn't just leak, they absolutely detonated across every tabloid, every news site, every corner of the internet. Within minutes, and I mean minutes, hashtag strip order was trending worldwide. Twitter went insane. Instagram flooded with theories. TikTok couldn't keep up with the speculation. Everyone was asking the same questions. Strip what exactly? Strip who? And why the hell is it secret? The energy was electric. People who normally don't care about royal drama were suddenly glued to their screens, refreshing feeds, waiting for any scrap of new information. Comment sections exploded with thousands of people weighing in, debating, arguing about what this could possibly mean. Here's where it gets wild. 3 major theories started floating around almost immediately, each one crazier than the last. Theory 1, they're going after his Duke of Sussex title. People were pulling up historical examples.
He does. I was summoned over from England in 2011 to...
Talking about how rare it would be, but not impossible. Theory 2. It's about his security clearance and whatever royal privileges he's got left. Maybe access to certain buildings, certain events, certain family gatherings. But Theory 3? That's the one that made people's jaws hit the floor. Some were saying this was about something way bigger, something nobody's even talking about publicly yet. The kind of thing that would make headlines for months, maybe years. Royal watchers were diving into every possible angle, pulling up old interviews, comparing timelines, analyzing every word that's been said over the past few years. Screenshots were flying everywhere, old clips getting millions of views. And what did the palace do during all this chaos? Absolutely nothing. Complete radio silence. Not a statement, not a denial, not even one of those classic, we don't comment on speculation lines they love to throw around. Nothing. 0 crickets. And let me tell you, when the palace goes that quiet, when they refuse to squash a rumor.
And he said, is there some etiquette as to which side a gentleman should dress, that way the tailors ask people.
That big, that's when you know something real is happening behind those thick stone walls. The silence was so loud, it practically echoed through London. Usually they're quick to shut down false rumors, but this time, they let it breathe. They let it grow. And that made everyone even more convinced something major was going down. But here's where insiders started spilling. Word got out that there'd been this heated meeting just days before Harry showed up. We're talking senior people, the ones who actually make decisions, top advisors who've been around for decades, all crammed behind closed doors, having intense discussions that apparently got pretty tense. And what were they discussing? The next phase of distancing the family from all the Sussex drama. Next phase. Think about that for a second. Like, there were phases before this one. Like, they've been planning this in stages, step by step, move by move. This isn't just damage control. This is a full-on strategy, a war room situation. People sitting around a table with documents, timelines, contingency plans, mapping out exactly how to handle what comes next.
It's unbelievable, but it looks like the runaway prince is trying to crawl his way back home. Yes, you heard that right.
Listen, Harry's been avoiding the UK like it's cursed ever since he stepped back from royal duties. Seriously, the man treats London like enemy territory. Every single visit he's made in the past few years has been super calculated, planned down to the minute, always with an escape route mapped out. He flies in, does what he absolutely has to do, and gets out as fast as humanly possible. No lingering, no casual strolls, no extra time spent catching up with anyone. It's become this predictable pattern everyone's noticed. He's in and out like he's on some kind of Mission Impossible operation. But this time, completely different. There was no charity gig scheduled, no public appearance on the calendar, no official reason for him to be there at all. Nothing that would explain why he'd suddenly board a transatlantic flight on what seemed like zero notice. And that's what made everyone's alarm bells go off, because Harry doesn't just randomly pop over to London for fun anymore.
It's not a surprise. For the time being, it's impossible for me.
Those days are long gone. If he's there, there's always a reason, always an event, always something public-facing that justifies the trip. The thing that really got people talking was his face at that airport. Just pure panic etched across it. You could see it in the way he moved, the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept his hood up trying to avoid cameras. This wasn't the composed prince doing a royal duty. This was someone who'd just gotten news that rocked his entire world. People who were there said he barely made eye contact with anyone, just moved through the terminal with this urgent energy that made it clear something had gone terribly wrong. And people started connecting dots fast. What if the rumors were true? What if they really were going after what's left of his royal status? What if this wasn't just talk anymore, but actual plans being put into motion?
Now let's talk about the one person whose voice still echoes through the palace halls, even though she's no longer here. Queen Elizabeth.
The timing made everyone suspicious. Why now, after all this time? Why so quietly with no official announcements? Why didn't anyone see this coming until it was basically already happening? Royal watchers were scrambling to piece together what could have triggered such a dramatic response. Meanwhile, back in Montecito, things got weird in a different way. Meghan, who's usually pretty visible, going to coffee shops, being photographed on walks, doing her thing, suddenly went completely dark. No posts, no sightings, no paparazzi shots, nothing. For someone who's constantly followed by cameras and always seems aware of her public image, that kind of total silence speaks volumes. It's like she vanished overnight. And for a couple who normally coordinates their messaging so carefully, who always seems to have a strategy for how they present themselves. This sudden radio silence from both of them at the same time.
Harry could lose everything. This isn't a family visit. This isn't a photo op. It's not even a peace mission.
That made everyone even more convinced something massive was happening behind the scenes that neither of them was ready to talk about yet. Get this. Turns out, not everyone inside the palace walls was on board with this whole strip order thing. Yeah, you heard that right. There were actual arguments happening behind closed doors, real disagreements about whether this was the right move or a massive mistake waiting to happen. Some people inside were pushing hard for what insiders were calling the nuclear option. Go big, go decisive, draw a clear line in the sand and be done with it. But others, they were freaking out, warning that this could backfire spectacularly, that it could make everything worse, create more drama, more headlines, more problems than it would solve. And here's where it gets really interesting. Word started getting out that William's been the one pushing hardest.
Prince Harry was all relaxed smiles and charms and made an appearance at a children's charity awards ceremony in London tonight. He apparently doesn't.
For clear boundaries to be set. Not suggestions, not gentle hints, but actual firm boundaries. According to people close to the situation, he's reached his breaking point with all of it. The constant media circus, the interviews that drop bombs on the family, the tell-all books, the documentaries, the never-ending cycle of accusations and revelations. He's done. Completely done. And apparently he's been making that very clear in these private discussions. The way insiders describe it, William's argument is pretty straightforward. The family can't keep taking hits like this. Every few months, there's another story, another interview, another revelation that puts everyone back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. It's exhausting, it's damaging, and from his perspective, it needs to stop. He wants clear lines drawn about what's acceptable and what isn't,
without actually going through the risk management board. So one does question how that is even possible.
about who gets to use royal connections and who doesn't, about how the family protects itself going forward. And here's the thing about William, when he pushes for something, people actually listen. He's not just throwing around opinions, he's the future of the whole operation. His voice carries weight in these discussions in a way that maybe it didn't 5 or 10 years ago. So when he's saying enough is enough, when he's advocating for serious action, the people making decisions are paying very close attention to what he's saying. But the split wasn't just about William versus everyone else. There were apparently different groups with totally different views. Some advisors thought cutting ties completely would give Harry and Meghan exactly what they wanted: the freedom to say whatever they want without any royal obligations holding them back. Others believed that keeping some connection, however thin,
we're talking about the titles that still define him, the titles tied to his kids, the last fragile string connecting him to the royal mat,
at least gave the family some influence over what happened next. It was turning into this whole back and forth about what would actually protect the family long term versus what would just create more chaos in the short term. All right, so here's what made everyone's jaw drop when more details started leaking out. This wasn't just one document sitting on someone's desk. It wasn't a single plan that they were considering. No, this was way more elaborate than anyone initially thought. We're talking multiple drafts, multiple scenarios, multiple backup plans, all laid out like some kind of military operation. The palace had apparently been preparing for every possible move Harry and Meghan might make next. Every scenario, every response, every potential outcome, they had it mapped out. Think about that for a second. They weren't just reacting to what was happening, they were anticipating what could happen.
A brand that can't afford 2 unpredictable wild cards living in California. And those 2 wild cards, Harry and Meghan.
If Harry does this, we do that. If Meghan says this, here's our response. If they both do something unexpected, here's plan C, D, and E. It's like they were wargaming the whole thing, running through every possibility they could think of and having a response ready to go. That's not casual planning, that's next-level preparation. And then the rumors started flying about what was happening on the other side. Word got out that Meghan was doing the exact same thing, preparing counter-statements for every possible scenario. Her team was apparently working overtime, drafting responses, planning their own moves, getting ready for whatever might come. So you've got both sides basically preparing for battle, each one trying to anticipate what the other might do next. It's intense when you think about it, like watching 2 chess players who are each thinking 10 moves ahead.
But Charles...
Yeah, I agree.
So we are in total agreement. They are very dependent.
Imagine if...
But here's the crazy part that really got people talking. Some insiders started suggesting that Harry didn't even know about the strip order until the very last second. Like, maybe the day before he flew out, maybe even that morning. There's this theory floating around that someone inside the palace deliberately kept him in the dark, that he was intentionally left out of the loop until things had already progressed pretty far. And honestly, that would explain so much. It would explain why he looked so shaken at the airport. It would explain why he moved so fast, why he seemed so unprepared, why he appeared to be scrambling. Imagine finding out about something this major not through official channels, not through family, but through back channels or leaked information or someone outside the circle tipping you off.
What a What do you make of it, and what are people in England making of Harry's latest comedy route?
That would send anyone into panic mode. You'd drop everything and get on the next flight too if you suddenly realized something massive was happening that directly affected you and your family, and you'd been completely blindsided by it. The urgency would make perfect sense if he was racing against time, trying to get there before decisions were finalized or announcements were made without him having any say in what happened next. So what's this really about? Because once you get past all the drama and the headlines and the speculation, it comes down to something pretty specific. It's not just about titles or security passes or who gets to attend which events. The real issue, according to people who've been talking, is way more fundamental than that. The palace is basically fed up with what they see as having it both ways. Harry and Meghan are still using royal connections.
Good evening. Prince Harry has unexpectedly returned to London, appearing tonight at the High Court for a privacy case.
Still benefiting from that association in various ways, while at the same time publicly criticizing the family and everything about it. And that contradiction, that's what's driving everyone inside those palace walls absolutely crazy. You can't have it both ways. That's the core of the frustration. You can't keep one foot in and one foot out forever. You can't benefit from the royal name and the royal association while simultaneously using interviews and documentaries to air grievances about how terrible everything is. From the palace's perspective, it's become this impossible situation where they're getting hit from both sides. They're dealing with the public criticism. But Harry and Meghan are still connected enough that people view them as representing the family in some capacity. It's messy, it's complicated, and apparently it's reached a breaking point.
Security for himself and his family, press control that will be coordinated by Buckingham Palace, and finally,
people started remembering past situations where royals who caused problems got quietly pushed to the side. Not publicly shamed, not dramatically cast out, just gradually distanced from the center of things. Given less prominence, fewer responsibilities, less visibility. It's happened before in royal history, and some insiders were suggesting this might be heading in a similar direction. Just a slow, steady separation until the connection becomes so thin it barely matters anymore. But then someone dropped the bombshell theory that changed the entire conversation. What about the kids? What about Archie and Lilibet? Because their prince and princess status has always been this weird, complicated, contested thing that nobody could quite figure out. There were debates when they were born, debates after the Queen passed.
Prince Harry is somewhere over the Atlantic, flying into the UK like he's racing the clock in a video game. But trust me, this is not
debates about what titles they should or shouldn't have. It's been messy from day one, with conflicting statements and unclear positions and a whole lot of confusion about what the actual rules were. And if the palace was seriously considering doing something about the children's titles, that would be absolutely nuclear-level drama. We're not talking about stripping titles from Harry and Meghan, who are adults who made their own choices. We're talking about their kids who didn't choose any of this, who are just caught in the middle of this whole mess. The idea that Archie and Lilibet might lose their prince and princess status, or have it questioned, or have limitations put on it, that's the kind of move that would dominate headlines for months, maybe years. That's the kind of thing that would make everything that came before look like a warm-up act. By afternoon, things started getting even weirder. King Charles still hadn't been seen anywhere.
Who they are now saying maybe said some bad things when he was back in primary school or...
No public appearances, no statements, no carefully worded press releases from his team. Nothing. And for a king who usually has a pretty visible schedule, who's usually somewhere doing something official, attending some event, or meeting some dignitary, that silence was super unusual. It made everyone wonder what was happening behind those closed doors. Was he meeting with advisors? Was he talking to Harry? Was he trying to figure out how to handle this whole situation before it exploded even further? The absence of any information just made people more anxious, more curious, more desperate for any hint of what was going on. Royal correspondents, who usually have pretty good sources, were coming up empty, which almost never happens. That's when you know something big is being kept under wraps. Meanwhile, Harry's movements became this obsessive tracking game that consumed everyone's attention.
Duke of Sussex. Now it's looking like his brother is gearing up to take that back. Not long after Charles was crowned as king.
His car was getting followed minute by minute through London, but nobody could actually confirm where he was going. Reporters were scrambling, deploying to different locations. Cameras were positioned at every major royal residence, and people were glued to their feeds, waiting for any update, any confirmation, any solid information. Did he go to Clarence House to meet his father? Was he heading to Windsor Castle? Some people swore they saw a black car with tinted windows pulling into a side gate at Kensington Palace. But there were no photos, no confirmation, nothing solid to back it up. Just speculation piled on top of more speculation. Every outlet was competing to be the first one to confirm his location, racing against each other, but the secrecy was so tight that nobody could pin anything down with certainty.
What if the palace had finally decided to move forward on consequences long whispered about but never acted on? And if that was—
It was like trying to track a ghost through the city. The secrecy around everything made the whole day feel like some kind of spy thriller. Like everyone involved was playing this elaborate game of cat and mouse with the media, deliberately staying one step ahead of anyone trying to figure out what was actually happening. Vehicles with dark windows, private entrances that most people don't even know exist, carefully timed movements coordinated down to the minute. It was intense. Security was clearly on high alert, making sure Harry could move around without being tracked by the dozens of photographers and journalists trying to follow every move he made. Routes were probably changed, decoy vehicles might have been used, all the tricks in the book to maintain privacy. And the more secretive everyone was being, the more convinced people became that something absolutely massive was going down.
Prince Harry just boarded an emergency flight to London, and this isn't some casual family visit. This is panic mode, because whispers from inside—
Because this level of coordination, this level of protection, this level of careful planning, you don't do that for a casual visit or a simple family conversation. This was crisis management level stuff. Then word started dropping that Harry had requested an immediate meeting with his father. Not next week, not when schedules could be properly arranged, not even tomorrow, but immediately. Like, as soon as humanly possible, drop everything else, kind of immediate. And apparently when that request came through, courtiers completely scrambled to make it happen. They were adjusting schedules, moving things around, clearing space in the calendar, probably making phone calls to postpone other commitments and explain why things had to be rearranged. The fact that they were willing to do that they were treating it as urgent enough to disrupt everything else on the king's agenda, told everyone this wasn't some casual family catch-up or a routine visit to discuss minor family matters. It was serious. Something that couldn't wait even one more day, couldn't be handled through intermediaries or palace officials. Something that required face-to-face conversation right now, not through carefully worded statements released by press offices, but directly between father and son, in person, with no one else filtering the message. People who were near the palace started noticing weird details that afternoon and evening. Little things that added up to paint a picture of something unusual happening. The gates stayed open longer than normal after a black car arrived. Like, they were expecting more vehicles or maybe waiting to see if anyone else was coming through. Guards seemed more alert than usual, more focused, eyes scanning constantly, standing a bit straighter, like they'd been told to pay extra attention to who was coming and going.
Makes me feel sick, actually. I'm sorry. I think it's so awful that he slid down
There was this visible tension in the air that people who passed by the palace regularly said they'd never seen before. Aides were spotted pacing outside on phone calls, gesturing, looking stressed, having conversations that clearly weren't casual check-ins with colleagues. The body language alone told a story. Hunched shoulders, urgent whispers, quick movements. Someone said they saw a senior advisor practically running across a courtyard at one point, which is almost unheard of in a place where everyone usually moves with careful, measured dignity, and everything's done by the book. These tiny observations that normally wouldn't mean anything suddenly felt loaded with significance. Royal watchers were reading meaning into every little thing they could spot, analyzing every detail like it was a clue in some elaborate puzzle, trying to piece together what was happening from the scraps of information they could gather.
Represent and whether they are compatible with the couple's current standing. Reports suggest that Harry recently flew to the UK.
Social media was going absolutely crazy with people sharing photos, videos, eyewitness accounts, anything that might give a clue about what was unfolding inside those palace walls. Amateur investigators were comparing timestamps, analyzing car models, trying to match up different sightings from different angles to create a comprehensive timeline of the day. It was this weird collective detective work happening in real time, with thousands of people all trying to solve the same mystery from whatever fragments they could find online. Comment sections were filling up with theories, debates, arguments about what each detail might mean. People were pulling up floor plans of royal residences, discussing which rooms might be used for serious family meetings, speculating about who else might be involved in the conversations.
Warming my blood and pepping up my spirits. I am convinced that floods of personal disaster.
The energy was electric, everyone feeding off each other's observations and theories, building this massive crowdsourced investigation into what was really happening. And through it all, the palace maintained that same deafening silence, refusing to confirm or deny anything, which only made the whole situation feel more intense and more dramatic with each passing hour. Look, whatever you think about Harry, whatever side you're on in this whole mess, you've got to admit, being caught in his position would absolutely destroy most people. Think about it for a second. You're stuck between what the palace expects from you, constant media attacks from every direction, public judgment that never stops. And then you've got Meghan's world and perspective, pulling you in a completely different direction.
If you were anywhere near Wi-Fi on the night of the German state banquet, you probably caught a whiff of the chaos wafting over from New York.
That's not just stressful. That's the kind of pressure that would break even the strongest person, you know. It's relentless, it's overwhelming, and there's no escape from it because everyone has an opinion about every single thing you do. Every decision gets analyzed, criticized, debated by millions of people who don't know you but feel entitled to judge your entire life. And then add in the possibility that your kids might be affected by all this, that Archie and Lilibet could lose their titles, their status, their connection to that part of their heritage. That takes it to a completely different level. We're not just talking about adult decisions and adult consequences anymore. We're talking about children who didn't ask for any of this, who are just living their lives in California, completely unaware of the storm swirling around them, suddenly being dragged into the middle of a family war they don't understand and can't control.
Faces and looking at them so nicely.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy. It's absolutely, if he...
That's the kind of thing that would send any parent into absolute panic mode, regardless of how you feel about the situation or whose side you think is right. When your kids become part of the equation, everything changes. The stakes aren't just about you anymore. They're about protecting your family, protecting your children from being collateral damage in a fight they never signed up for. By evening, you could see it written all over Harry's face. Every photo that managed to surface, every brief glimpse people caught of him through car windows or at a distance, showed the same thing. exhaustion. Complete and total exhaustion. The kind that comes from being overwhelmed, from running on pure adrenaline and stress for hours on end, from not being able to process how things got this far this fast. He looked like someone who couldn't quite believe this was really happening, like he was still trying to wrap his head around the fact that things had escalated to this point. Like he kept expecting to wake up and realize it was all just some terrible nightmare.
Prince William doubles down. It's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
The weight of everything was visible in his posture, in the way he moved, in the expression on his face. And honestly, it was kind of hard to watch even if you don't particularly sympathize with his choices or agree with the path he's taken over the past few years. Meanwhile, the silence from everyone else was deafening. Buckingham Palace still wasn't saying anything. Not a word, not a hint, not even an acknowledgement that anything unusual was happening or that Harry was even in the country. Kensington Palace was equally silent. No statements from William's team, no carefully worded responses, no attempts to clarify or deny anything. Sussex representatives weren't talking either. The PR teams that usually jump at any chance to shape the narrative were completely quiet. Nobody was talking.
The royal world is reeling with disbelief. Prince Harry, once stripped of every title, privilege, and honor.
And when you've got that level of coordinated silence from multiple different camps who usually can't resist making their positions known, who normally compete to get their version of events out first, that tells you everything you need to know. Something massive was being negotiated, discussed, decided behind closed doors, and everyone had agreed to keep their mouths shut until whatever was happening had actually happened and been finalized. Everyone was holding their breath, just waiting for someone to say something, anything that would give some clarity to what was going on. Royal commentators were practically begging for information, posting updates every few minutes that basically said, "Still nothing new," because people were so desperate for answers that even updates confirming there were no updates were getting thousands of views and shares.
So Harry is on his way back, but Harry and his team are hoping that this visit may have a different feel.
The anticipation was building to this unbearable level where every hour that passed without news just made people more anxious, more curious, more convinced that when information finally did come out, it was going to be absolutely explosive. The longer the silence went on, the bigger people assumed the news would be when it finally broke. Social media was in this weird holding pattern where everyone was just refreshing their feeds obsessively, checking royal correspondence accounts every few minutes, looking for any hint or clue or leak that might give them insight into what was happening. Speculation was running wild. Theories were getting more elaborate and detailed with each passing hour. People were creating timelines, making predictions, betting on what the announcement would say. The energy was intense, this collective sense that everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
This story, and I thought, how would that, even though he was in his early 30s there?
For the moment when everything would finally make sense, or maybe make even less sense, depending on what got revealed. And then late that night, the final rumor hit. The one that made everything else from earlier in the day seem like just the warm-up act. Word started spreading that the palace was planning to make an announcement. Not that night, not immediately, but soon, very soon. Within days, maybe within hours. The kind of announcement that doesn't come lightly, that requires preparation and careful wording and approval from multiple people at the highest levels. An announcement that signals something significant is about to change. Something that will shift the entire dynamic of how this family operates going forward. And when palaces make announcements after days like this, after all this chaos and speculation and tension building for hours on end,
Now, we weren't sure if we were going to see him, but Prince Harry has made a surprise appearance. Now, he very rarely...
They don't mess around. They don't do it for minor updates or clarifications or to address small rumors. They do it because something major has been decided, something that needs to be communicated clearly and officially to the entire world, something that's going to change the conversation completely. That's what everyone was facing as the night wore on and London settled into darkness. The certainty that an announcement was coming, combined with absolutely no idea what it would actually say. Would it be about titles being removed or restricted, about the children and their status, about Harry and Meghan's future relationship with the family and what that would look like going forward, about boundaries and expectations and new rules for how things would work? Nobody knew. Absolutely nobody had concrete information.
Did you know that even if Harry returns to the royal family, there are still 3 members who won't accept him? First is Prince William.
But everyone was sure it would be significant, that it would change the conversation, that it would mark some kind of turning point in this whole ongoing saga that's been playing out for years now. Ever since Harry and Meghan first stepped back and set all of this in motion. The tension was electric. You could feel it even through screens, even across oceans. This sense that something monumental was about to happen, that the royal family was about to make a move that would echo for years, maybe decades. And Harry was right there in the middle of it, in London, possibly still in meetings, possibly still trying to change minds or understand what was coming or prepare for whatever announcement would eventually drop. It was one of those moments where you knew, even as it was happening, that this was going to be one of those days people would look back on and remember as the day everything changed.
Making headlines, Prince Harry's return to the UK. The estranged royal went straight from the airport to visit Queen Elizabeth's...
So here's where we are right now. Something massive shifted that day, something that nobody saw coming, even though the signs were probably there all along. Harry didn't fly back to London because he wanted a nice family visit or because he missed home. He flew back because something forced his hand, because he got information or a warning or a message that made him realize he had to be there immediately, that whatever was about to happen was too important to handle from across the Atlantic. That kind of urgency doesn't come from nothing. That kind of panic doesn't happen unless the situation is serious, unless the stakes are higher than anyone outside those palace walls can fully understand. And the palace, they're not just sitting there taking it anymore. For years, they've been absorbing hit after hit, dealing with interview after interview, documentary after documentary.
Well, most families ever, royal or not, every family goes through, as you know as well, and goes through.
Trying to maintain some kind of dignity while everything gets aired out publicly. But something changed, some line got crossed, some breaking point got reached, and suddenly they're not just defending anymore. They're taking action. They're making plans. They're preparing to do something that's apparently significant enough to require secret meetings, emergency flights, and this level of coordinated silence from everyone involved. Whatever happens next is going to reshape the whole royal situation in ways we haven't seen in decades, maybe longer. This isn't just another chapter in the ongoing Sussex drama. This feels different. This feels like a turning point. Like one of those moments people will remember as the moment when everything changed direction, when the family dynamics shifted permanently.
Despite the Duke of Sussex flying almost 11 hours to see his father following his shock cancer diagnosis,
When new boundaries got set, that would define how things work for years, maybe generations to come. The relationships, the titles, the expectations, the rules about who's in and who's out, all of it could be about to change. And we're all just sitting here, waiting to see what that palace announcement actually says when it finally drops. Will it be as dramatic as everyone fears? Will it be more measured and careful than the rumors suggest? Will it answer all the questions that have been building up? Or will it create even more confusion and speculation? Nobody knows, but everyone's watching, waiting, wondering what words will finally break this silence that's been hanging over everything. Because that's the question that's been echoing everywhere since Harry's plane touched down at Heathrow.
An expert has revealed the circumstances under which Prince Harry and Meghan would consider returning to royal duties. According to
From royal commentators to casual observers, from devoted fans to harsh critics, everyone's asking the same thing. When that palace announcement finally comes, when they finally break their silence and tell the world what's actually happening, what exactly are they going to say? What decision has been made behind those closed doors? What's about to change? And how will Harry, Meghan, and their family respond when they hear it? That's what we're all waiting to find out. And something tells me when we do finally get those answers, nothing's going to be the same. So, what do you think is really going down? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want to catch the fallout when that announcement finally drops, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll be here for it. See you in the next one.